not impede the act. So if you're saying that you're going to bar them from ever recording meetings in advance, in the future, that would be in violation and would, undermine the intent of the act.
Well, I disagree respectfully, Linda. I think, just like the Sunshine Act says that meetings are to be public, if somebody comes in to a public meeting and they take their clothes off and scream and shout, it would be consistent with the Sunshine Act to bar them from future public meetings if they can't respect reasonable rules of order. So it's the same type of thing.
You didn't say, the ordinance that your resolution you read didn't say bar them from public meetings, it said bar them from recording public meetings.
Right, same type of thing. If you can't come to a public meeting.
But you can't bar citizens from recording a public meeting under the Sunshine Act.
I disagree. You can bar a citizen from attending a public meeting. If you can do that, you can certainly bar them from recording. It's the same principle. If you can't follow reasonable rules and restrictions that are put in place to maintain order, then it's completely legal to bar you from attending a meeting, or in the case of recording, if you can't follow the rules regarding recordings, to bar you from recording. So I would respectfully disagree with you, Linda.
Well, I could see if somebody abused the policy, but by putting that in there, if somebody inadvertently was not perhaps maybe aware of the ordinance, or pardon me, the resolution that you're going to pass. In other words, it's just that language, Damien, seems to conflict everything the act is about. In section 710 stated you cannot institute any rules that would conflict with the recording of meetings.
It says the opposite. It even says, if I'm recalling correctly, in that subsection that you're subject to reasonable rules and restrictions.
Okay, I think I heard enough. This is what I'd like to do. I would say I would like to table this motion because I don't think we have a problem. And we don't necessarily need to create a rule. We don't have a problem.
I have it on.
But I'd like to table it and potentially bring it up in the future. Not that I don't believe that it's not legal or anything like that. But like I said, I wasn't completely sold on it. As long as we don't have any issues going forward, then we can move on.
Sorry, can I make one tiny comment to Damien? Could you maybe put a sentence in there about an appeal process? I mean, what if like the video recorder starts going wacko and it's not your fault and you didn't intend? I mean, could you maybe add a sentence like something, like?
Sure, I mean, I think
So
the way that, I'll say this, the way that it's written, it doesn't say anything will happen, it doesn't say the township has to or is definitely going to do something, it says they could do any of the following, so I don't think Kevin is gonna, become the chief of police and something goes wrong. I mean,
basically, if somebody's doing something in violation, say repeatedly, it's grounds.
right.
It's not saying you'll automatically be banned.
But to answer your question, sure, we could do something
But if you've got
like
somebody
that.
that's constantly doing something over and over again, then there should be some sort of.
Right.
Yeah, I'm fine with the way it's written, but I'm gonna opt to table it. Again, it's something we thought about and brought up, and it is worthwhile considering.
Hey, Bob.
But again, it's like anything else, any other, it's like any other rule we have in the township. Majority of them aren't enforceable. They aren't, if they're there to give people and make them aware of what's happening. But, I don't know, you guys feel either way, table, you all right with
And
that?
if you want to table it, that's fine.
You want to table?
Okay, I got one more.
Tabled, move on.
There is an opportunity for the township, if you want to prohibit the location of Category 4 casinos in our township. And if the township wanted to do that, then we must pass a resolution and deliver it to the Pennsylvania Gaming and Control Board no later than December 31st, 2017. After that date, we can't Can't do it. I mean, we could pass a resolution or an ordinance, but it would be null and void by law. So this is our limited window, if you want to prohibit Category 4 casinos in the township, to do it. And I don't mean to suggest it has to be done tonight, but we would have to do it before the end of the year.
Could I ask, what is the category for?
I don't know. But it's some type of casino. No, we
It just has the, what do they call it?
slot machines.
Slot machines, yeah.
So if they legalize slot machines, the fire company can't do it? That's what you're gonna say?
Yeah,
Well,
my
that's a
question-
good
what
question.
you're
I
gonna-
don't know if,
That's what you're gonna do here.
So right now, if the fire company, they do that now? Or
They used to years ago when they had slot machines and they were legalized. That's what I had heard that they were coming down.
okay, I don't know specifically, Terry,
Can
if
we get some
just
information?
the fact that
I mean,
you
my-
have a
my
slot
thought
machine
was-
makes you a Category 4 casino, but I could certainly look into it.
Yeah, my only thought also was if we have, like a restaurant, and I don't know what category 4 is.
I can
I
tell you
tried to
what,
look
it's
it
a
up.
mini casino with not less than 300 or more than 750 slot machines
Oh,
or
all right.
table games.
So you're not gonna have 300 slot machines at the firehouse.
Not yet. Next week, maybe.
That's what it says, not less than 300 or more than 750 slot machines or table games. So that's a category 4.
Oh, I didn't see that. So basically, anything more than 300 would be considered a mini casino.
Right.
Am I reading that right, David?
Yes.
So we're saying we don't want mini casinos with 300 to 750 slot machines in them. That's a pretty big casino. That's
Yeah.
considered mini, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, and I should mention, because I didn't, I'm just reading this in a little bit more detail. You could, after the end of the year, we can't prohibit them. You could pass a resolution now that says, we don't want them here, and you could always rescind that later, the township could. So I guess I bring that up to say maybe the safer place, since you only have the power to prohibit them
Right.
in this limited time that we have
Well,
left.
if that's
a month and a
considered,
week.
if that's considered mini, that's pretty big. I'm in favor of
Yeah.
banning them.
So what's less than 300? Is there, what's a category less
So it
than
wouldn't
300?
affect you.
Or is-
No,
the fire-
no,
fire
fire
department.
company.
Yeah, so we don't have a resolution prepared, so you don't really have to make a decision, but if you, all I'm asking is, making you aware of it. If you wanna consider one, I can have one ready for the next meeting, and then we could vote on it at that time.
That would be my wish. Any public comment? Anybody else,
I have a
anybody want a
comment.
casino? Yeah, Warren?
What would be the drawback of having a casino?
Talk about traffic and, you know. I mean, I don't know that we.
I mean,
do we have
some
a
people
venue?
probably have religious concerns about gambling. Is there anything realistically that, I
Well,
mean, it's tax income?
there's positives and negatives, and some, it's one of these things that the
What do you
community
think the
has to
balance
weigh.
is between the
Right,
positive
well,
and the negative?
the
as
positives would
police?
be that there's enormous taxable income, and that could be very beneficial. I know, in talking with Chief of Ben Salem Township and some of these other areas that have casinos, there's been a lot of positives for them with that. The negatives are that unfortunately, just like any large venue that is adult-driven, you're gonna have more of your quality of life issues, problems. Alcohol consumption, I do know that from time to time, I myself have even read the newspaper of some of the sad situations where people will go to the casinos and leave children unsupervised in their vehicles. That's been something that's gone on several times up at the one in Ben Salem. And I just think that it's one of these things where the community has to decide that. I mean, I'm not opposed to it, I'm not for it. You know, I think that there's positives and negatives, but you'd have to research it. And you'd probably have to really talk to some of the communities that have them to see if it's worth that type of situation. It increases volume, people are gonna be coming from outside of the area. It's not gonna be just the folks from the upper portion of Montgomery County, people come from all over to utilize these things. And I just think that it has to be a decision that you need to make carefully before proceeding. That would be my only advice.
My comment first off is congestion. I mean, I can't imagine if we had something that big, the amount of traffic that we'd have feeding that in and out. To me, that would be a big issue. Right off the top of my head.
Yeah, and
The other
under-
thing is they do operate traditionally 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And so then that provides public safety concerns, fire, EMS, police. As I said, I think that, but once again, I'm not gonna say that there's not some benefits to it, but you just have to think about it, is that what you want in your community? I mean, this is your community, you want it in your community.
And since we are in sound fiscal basis to begin with, we don't need to bring in extra tax revenue for gambling and so forth, and bring in all the other headaches go along with it, that I perceive that would go along with it, let's say. My feeling would be that just in our small community, it would be, could end up being a blight on our area, in my opinion.
I agree. I'd like to move forward with the preparation of a resolution prohibiting location of casino 4, or however you put it.
You can always change your
Because we need
mind
to
if
have-
something's
Hold
not
on,
right.
hold on a second, please. I'm speaking. I would like to wonder if, you said this has to be done by the end of December.
Right, it's just, it's a
So we
resolution,
need to
it doesn't
move on.
have to be awarded,
We need to-
advertised or anything.
Okay, so we need to move on it and get it prepared and get it done this month. I move to prepare that resolution. So second, all in favor? Aye. I'm sorry, Warren, did you have a comment? I wanna move on.
It's not, we're not making something that's binding, it's not like we couldn't change our mind and let something come in down the road.
Right.
It's just that we can't
We want to
go the other direction.
Right.
There's a lot of talk about rural character in this township, and I would think that that doesn't quite fit the bill, so I'm perfectly confident moving forward with it. Thank you.
Can I just ask a question, maybe the audience knows the answer? The casino in King of Prussia, how big is that? Just
Well-
for comparison's sake.
It's not as big as the one that I was referring to that's in Ben Salem Township. And there are some situations that kind of mitigate some of our exposure, and that is that regardless of where casinos are situated, the gaming floor is controlled by the Pennsylvania State Police. So they provide security and protection to the gaming floor. The parking lots, the surrounding areas, restaurants, anything that would be built would be municipal responsibility. So that's how some of these places have permitted it, because the state police are there regulating it. They do the gaming function. Municipal police do not have the authority to enforce gaming law in the same capacity. That's something that is isolated to the state police. But in terms of size, the casino, I don't know what the actual square footage is. It is considerably smaller. It's one of the smaller casinos in the area. I do know that also there's one in Chester, which is considerably larger. And some of the card games, for instance, like poker and things like that, I don't believe are offered at King of Prussia, but they're offered at some of the surrounding
So
because
maybe
of space.
maybe that's a mini casino.
Well, there's-
I think it's a little bit larger.
I can add a little to that.
Okay.
The one in Valley Forge is a resort license, where you have to be a
Okay.
patron of that hotel and resort in order to go in there, or you have to buy a membership card. The other ones in the state, you can just walk in. This, not to overstep my sewer bounds here, but I have 2 other townships that just went through this, and the Valley Forge Casino has the ability to open a subsidiary casino, from what I understand, within or outside of a 20-mile radius of this, which is why one of the reasons that some of these communities are jumping on this and passing this. And I think that fits into what would be the category 4.
That's what
There
it
was-
says,
I
it's a
believe-
subsidiary, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Let's shoot out a franchise,
Yeah.
send one up here.
Wow.
Thank you.
And I'll just give a quick update on the agricultural security area, it's not on the agenda, but last update I gave, we needed to make some corrections to the individual proposals. And we mailed out letters to all the landowners that needed to make corrections, and we've since gotten response back from everyone except for one landowner. I spoke with them yesterday. It's a property owned by a trust, and I answered the question they had, and they said they'll be sending their corrected proposal too, so that should be done soon.
Is there a time constraint, has to be done this calendar year or anything like that, or?
Not really, no.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's the end of everything on my agenda.
Ready for the engineer?
Kevin is.
Go
for it.
All right.
Kevin's ready.
There was a recent announcement issued about the availability of grant money from the PA Small Water and Sewer Program. And I believe these documents are in your packet. I reached out to DCED and had a discussion about this program. I was hoping we could find some way to put in an application to use this program to pay for some of our sewer collection system extension. But we can't. The simple answer is we can't. The grant is for projects that are in a range between $30,000 and $500,000. And in talking to DCED, if you did get a project qualified for grant money, and it was a $450,000 project, and you had a change order that put it over $500,000, you're out of the program.
Um,
So, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, didn't we just authorize new manhole lining in the past 2 months?
No,
No,
No?
no, it's actually, I think, been at least 2 years since,
No, is
yeah,
it?
we didn't do any this year.
you know.
All right.
So my
We don't-
suggestion was, yeah, that we look at manhole lining,
Yeah.
and
Right.
submit a grant application to line 10 to 14 manholes. In the
Right.
past, they've cost us between $3,500 and $5,500 per structure. There would be a match, it's a 15% match. But if you're getting $55,000 worth of work, a 15% match is $8,250. So that's a pretty good bargain, so.
Have we done this before? Did we get
Um,
grant money for this project? Sewer linings? Or
No,
no?
No.
Manhole linings?
no, it's all been out of your budget.
Okay.
I
That'd be a big
think-
savings
I
for
think
us.
you put in for this grant in the past 2 years, trying to see if you could get money towards the pump
For the
station.
pump station on
And
the
you
other
didn't
side,
get it.
right?
So, there's no guarantee, but here's the good news. We've done that, we've done a handful of manhole lining programs, I've got all the specs, and it's all cookie cutter at
So
this
it's an
point.
easy one.
So, we wouldn't be putting out a lot of money and effort, it would just be rather than sitting down with Tom man and picking out the manholes based on our previous surveys, and then working with Kevin to fill out the grant application, see if
We
we
have
get
an ongoing program for this anyway. I'm just gonna-
Right.
yeah.
more.
Okay.
So,
You good with this, Kevin?
okay,
You guys gonna do it?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do we need to do to save?
just
Do
tell
it?
me you want me to go, go
Go
ahead and
for it.
start. The next thing that was on the agenda was the Ragusa site planning module. The applicant has not completed all their paperwork for you to address that tonight, and I am recommending that you table that until the next
Okay.
meeting.
Yeah. We're not ready, we're not moving forward.
Now, on that same topic, I'm gonna digress a little bit, because I delivered a report to the township today regarding clearing, or not clearing, tree cutting on the property of the outside of Brookfield or Ragusa subdivision. Would you like me to address that now?
Yeah, why not?
Not there.
What do you got?
So, I have 2 pieces of information for you.
There should be other ones in your turn. There's another
Are they in the binder?
one.
No,
That's
I
another.
just sent that out today. Is the Conservation District report in there too?
Yes.
Thank you.
There's
I'm
extra
good.
copies. There you go.
And I laid copies of this material on each person's binder when I put it in.
You got this, John?
The only thing I don't have a hard copy of with me right now is the Conservation District. But I know what it says, so we're fine.
Does she have a oh, you don't say?
I know what it
Got it.
I
guess you
So, at the township's request, I walked the site of the proposed Creekside at Turkey Yeoman or Ragusa subdivision property to evaluate their compliance with the limits of disturbance as indicated on project plans. The tree cutting performed in previous months appears to be in compliance with the limits of disturbance on the project plan. The limits of disturbance vary throughout the property in relation to the property boundary and the neighborhood setback. I've heard reference to a 100-foot buffer in some of our meetings. The correct term that's consistent with the township code is a 100-foot neighborhood setback. The neighborhood setback is an offset for the boundary of each neighborhood or grouping of residential lots from certain features. The zoning ordinance includes a 100-foot neighborhood setback from the perimeter of the land being developed. This means that a 100-foot setback is maintained between the new lots and the existing tract boundary. There is no zoning code requirement that this 100-foot setback be densely forested or undisturbed. The attached plan, which I provided, depicts the limits of disturbance, which are highlighted in green,
Thank you.
and the neighborhood setback, which is highlighted in blue, to help clarify the difference. So on the afternoon of Wednesday, November 22nd, I met on site with Chris Leister of Schwalk and Jen Shaw of Victory Gardens to walk this site. We started at the construction entrance and walked to the temporary stream crossing. We then walked parallel to the stream in a northerly direction and crossed at the stream crossing, which predated this development. It was Old Farmer's Crossing, I believe it was 24 inches back there. Heading northeast, we located the property corner pin. I paced the distance from the pin towards the cut trees. The tree cutting did not appear to encroach on the limit of disturbance. However, many trees fell in the northwesterly direction on this side of the property, so the tops of the fallen trees were closer to the property line than the limits of disturbance. I do not believe this to be a violation. I was advised that Victory Gardens would have removed those felled trees shortly after cutting had they not received a stop work order. Remember, Victory Gardens was along in this walk. There were ribbons visible throughout the site that were delineating the limit of disturbance as marked by Schwalk. When paced from the stone wall along the property line, the limits appeared consistent with the plan. The tree cutting did not extend into the limits of disturbance along the east side of the property. Apparently, and by that I mean the tree cutting didn't go all the way up to the limits of disturbance on this end of the property. Apparently work was halted before the cutting was complete. So the limits of the disturbance are marked on the site by survey flagging tape, and my investigation indicates the trees that were cut were within the marked limits of disturbance. Some of those trees did fall towards the property perimeter. Recent grading activity on the site was limited to the area of the construction entrance and the temporary creek crossing. No grading was apparent to me on the east side of the creek. Now, that was my inspection on Wednesday. The following Monday, this past Monday, the Montgomery County Conservation District was on site. The other report you have is their report saying they observed no violations at the subject property. So hopefully that's that report. So hopefully that addresses some of the concerns that have been raised in recent meetings. It's now been investigated, and the actual cutting of trees is what occurred out there, and it was within the flagged limits of disturbance, which by pacing appear to be correct.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
All right, continuing on. There was discussion about formation of a traffic calming committee. Well, there was a discussion, that's tonight's discussion. I provided members of the board, and I believe they're in your packet, with pages from the traffic calming manual. There we go. So this is the Pennsylvania